Hey everyone. Oh, that's my name tag from work. Hey everyone. Full disclosure, I have kind of stolen the idea for this video off of another YouTube channel that I'm a big fan of and a subscriber to. Two channels actually, to be fair. It's Outside Xbox and Outside Xtra. The two groups kind of combined together to make this video about which games over the last 10 years they would save if there was some kind of entertainment media apocalypse style event. And I really liked it, and it got me thinking about the same kind of thing for myself as well. And I've kind of combined the idea with an idea that I had for a video towards the end of last year, which I never did. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at three different categories over the last 10 years, because we're coming to the end of this decade now. I'm going to be looking at TV series, movies and video games. To make things a little bit easier for myself, I'm going to give myself 5 instead of the one that Outside Xbox and Outside Xtra did. But to kind of balance it out a little bit and make it a little bit harder for myself, any movies that are a part of a series of films, so for example the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I can only choose one out of that. And the same obviously goes for the video game side. Although the TV series that I'm looking at the series as a whole rather than just one individual season of it. So here we go. So these are my top 5. I'll start with TV shows to begin with. My top 5 that I would save if there was some kind of apocalyptic media fire entertainment thing happen. Anyway, there we go. So, number 5 on this list, we have Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones was an incredible television show. Right from the start, I was disappointed with the ending, which is probably why this is number 5 on the list, but I can't look at a list like this and not include Game of Thrones in it, because pretty much seasons 1 to 5 are some of my favourite seasons of television, probably ever, I would say. I love all the characters. I love Jon, I loved Dany, I love Jaime, I love Tyrion. Tyrion's just the best, and I can't not include it. So there it is, Game of Thrones, number 5 on the list. Number 4, we have a TV show called The Walking Dead. In a similar kind of way to Game of Thrones, I do kind of feel like The Walking Dead's gone a bit downhill over the last couple of years. But again, seasons 1 to 5, 1 to 6 probably. Again, incredible television show, really, really loved it. Can't not include it on this list of essentially my favourite TV shows ever. Well, specifically this last decade, but ever, let's be fair. At number 3, we have a TV show. This is a little bit of a cheat, to be perfectly honest with you, but a TV show called Supernatural. It's a little bit of a cheat because it actually started in 2005, which is obviously before this decade started. But in my defence, 2/3 of the show's seasons were shot and aired in this decade. So I'm going to kind of make an exception to my little rule there, and I'm going to include it. Again, great characters. Sam, Dean, Castiel, Crowley, Lucifer, Bobby, all of them. I love them so much, and I don't think TV would be quite the same without it. Which we're going to find out soon, because it's coming to an end, unfortunately. So, Supernatural right there at number 3. Number 2, quite possibly one of the best science fiction shows that I've ever seen. I'm about to start watching season 4 of The Expanse. A great science fiction show. It's available on Amazon Prime, so if you haven't watched it yet, I recommend that you give it a go. It's rewarding, and it's a great show, and I love it. So there we go. And number 1, it's got to be Stranger Things. I mean, honestly, another example of great writing, great characters, great acting. TV wouldn't be the same without it, and I cannot wait for season 4 next year when it comes out, and I just hope that, spoiler alert, Hopper isn't dead. There we go. So some honourable mentions for this category that I wanted so much to include, but I just couldn't really include them over the ones that I did. We have The Orville. It's a great television show. It's kind of a love letter to Star Trek, which is another one of my favourite TV series. But it's Seth MacFarlane, in my view, at his best, and great television series on its own. I was so close to including Chuck in this list. Chuck is one of my favourite TV shows of all time. The only reason why it didn't make the list is because most of the seasons, I believe season 1 to 3, which is more than half, were shot and aired before 2010. So, unfortunately, I couldn't justify including it in the list. But if it had been made just a few years later, then it would have been right there, probably at number 1, if I'm completely honest. Maybe number 2, I don't know. There we go. There are my honourable mentions. And let's move on to the next category. Let's look at movies. So right here at number 5, I don't think I could do a list like this without including at least one Disney movie. The only problem that I have is that over the last 10 years, I've not really been that interested in a lot of the Disney movies that have come out, with one exception, and that exception is Tangled, which came out in 2010. So it just made the mark. It's a retelling of the Rapunzel story, basically, and it's got Zachary Levi in it, who's great. I love him. I know him from Chuck, and it's a really good film and a really good watch. And if you haven't seen it, I recommend that you watch it. Number 4, again, I couldn't make a list like this about movies without including at least one Harry Potter film. The only problem that I have is that after 2010, only 2 Harry Potter movies were made. The last 2, Deathly Hallows Part 1 and Deathly Hallows Part 2. I am going to consider them separate movies because it's Part 1 and Part 2. And if I had to choose one, I would say Part 2. Partly, should I say, because of what happens at the end of Part 1 with a beloved character passing away. But also, I think I'd probably choose Part 2 overall out of the 2 of them, because it's the conclusion to the story. It's what it was all building up to, and it's just brilliant. So there we go. Number 3, Rogue One: A Star Wars Story. It's the best of the new Star Wars films that have come out over the last few years. I prefer it to all the others. I prefer it to Solo, even though I enjoyed Solo. I prefer it to The Force Awakens. I certainly prefer it to The Last Jedi, but I won't say anything else about that right now. It's a great movie. It's got a great story to it. It's got great characters in it. It's a story about the Resistance, and it's darker than any other Star Wars movie we've seen. It's grittier, and I think that's probably a big reason why I like it so much, to be honest. Number 2, we have Deadpool. Now, I'm going to circle back to this one in a little bit, because it beat only very just one of my honourable mentions to the punch. Mainly because this movie is the very first movie that I ever went to see with my girlfriend. Deadpool. Again, it's a brilliant movie. Ryan Reynolds is perfect in the role of Deadpool / Wade Wilson, and it's just entertaining and brilliant from start to finish. And number 1 on this list, again, I'll circle back to it because it very slightly beat one of my other honourable mentions, is Avengers Endgame, which, in spite of what happens at the end with Tony, just the scope, the size of that film overall is immense and incredible. And it's emotional, and it's exciting, and it's action-packed, but it's got a lot of heart, and there's a lot of fan service in there to say thank you to all the Marvel fans that have stuck with them since day 1 with Iron Man, and it's the best out of all of them. So my honourable mentions for this, the one that Deadpool very, very slightly beat is Logan. Logan is the best X-Men film for me ever. And the one that Endgame very, very slightly beat was Avengers Assemble, which up until Endgame was my favourite Marvel movie. And now my final category, video games. Right, so this was a very tough one, but I managed to narrow it down to 5, and here they are. Number 5, we have a little independent game called Unravel. It was a game that my girlfriend and I saw on the Xbox Marketplace, and we thought, that looks kind of cute. It's not very expensive, let's give it a go. And we rather quickly, I think, kind of fell in love with it. Just the style of the game, the music to the game, the character, the main character, Yanni, you can't help but not find him absolutely adorable, and you care about him from very, very early on in the game right up until the ending. And I seem to remember when the ending rolled around, my girlfriend and, you know, maybe myself a little bit as well, had tears in her eyes because of how the story sort of unfolded. So number 4 on this list, and probably the game that I've spent the most time playing over the last 10, or in fact probably ever, but certainly over the last 10 years, is GTA 5, specifically the online portion of it. That was basically mine and my best friend's go-to game for probably about 4.5, 5 years after it got released, and we kind of hammered it into the ground a fair bit, so GTA 5 couldn't not be included here. Number 3 on this list, The Last of Us. Beautiful story, brilliantly executed, probably one of my favourite games of all time. You can't help but, over the course of the game, probably the first quarter of the game, you begin to really genuinely care about what happens to these characters, and it's got a great story to it, and I'm so looking forward to The Last of Us Part 2 when that eventually comes out. Number 2, and the game that I have owned the most copies of in my life, is Skyrim. I owned Skyrim on the Xbox 360. I played it and I loved it, and then the Xbox One came out and I got rid of my 360. Couldn't play Skyrim anymore, so I got it on the PC. And then the special edition came out for the Xbox One, so I got it on the Xbox One and I replayed it. I love that game. It's a game that I can quite easily get lost in for a number of hours and not get bored. And number 1, the game that I would save above all others, probably, it's got to be the one, the only, Fallout 76. I'm kidding. I'm joking. I'm joking. Pick yourselves up off the floor. I'm kidding. I played Fallout 76 for a while, and I did really enjoy it, but no. But the game that I would actually save above any other games is, of course, The Witcher 3, The Wild Hunt. Pretty much hooked instantly, in exactly the same way that they did with The Last of Us, in creating likeable characters that you care about what happens to them. The Witcher 3, in my opinion, did that on a bigger scale. Jerry is one of my favourite characters from any game ever. It used to be the Master Chief. Now it's Geralt of Rivia, because he's just awesome. His sass and his sarcasm is brilliant. His humour is I can remember laughing out loud at certain dialogue options that you ended up getting, and the story is brilliant from start to finish. Even when you don't follow the main quest line directly and specifically and religiously, and you divert off into the optional side quests and the treasure hunts and the Witcher contracts that you can do, and just wandering around the world that CD Projekt Red created in this game is just enough to fill so many hours of gameplay. It's unreal. And there's all the other characters that you can't help but love and care about. Siri, obviously. Triss, who is Jerry's one and only true love. Vernon, Dandelion, Roach the horse even is... I mean, how can a horse in a game have such character? But the horse in the game has so much character all on his own, and her own, sorry. It can't not be at the top of the list. It's my favourite game of all time, and there it is. So, some honourable mentions here. Fallout 4 very nearly made the list. Minecraft very nearly made this list as well. I have moments of really, really loving Minecraft, and then moments of really, really not being interested at all, really. So I couldn't really justify putting it on there. And to be honest, Red Dead Redemption. Now, if I was going to choose to put one of these on the list, it would have been Red Dead Redemption 1. I know Red Dead Redemption 2 in a lot of ways is superior, but I just love Red Dead Redemption 1, the first one, so much more. There it is. Those are my lists. What would be yours? Let me know in the comments. Hope you enjoyed this video. I probably am not going to make another one before Christmas, probably not even before New Year either. So if I don't, I hope you all have a very, very happy Christmas. Make sure you spend as much time with your families as you can, because that's what it's for. And a very, very happy New Year as well. And I will probably see you in 2020. Bye bye everyone. Take care of yourselves.